Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again to another live stream. I'm very pleased to be joined in the virtual studio, in front of the French windows, by Justine Blanchard, body confidence buddy. Actually, she runs a body confidence wellness program, a retreat, and also talks about using a variety of complementary techniques to help you find yourself and basically do better. Today, she's here to educate me, and maybe even a bunch of you will be nodding your head sagely as she does so, already safe in the knowledge that I don't have. One of the facets that Justine brings to the table is something called Reiki. Now, Reiki is quite an ancient practice, I believe, but it deals with stuff I have no knowledge of whatsoever. So I'm going to play stupid, which, as I said, not a big stretch, and say, Justine, what is Reiki and how can it help someone like me?
Well, thank you, Gareth. Great introduction, as always. So essentially, Reiki is universal energy. It's energy. I mean, everything is energy. Our bodies are full of energy. There's energy in the air. Our computers are being run on energy. Absolutely everything. Absolutely everything is energy. And Reiki is, as you said, fairly ancient, although it was kind of discovered in this form not that long ago. And it's a Japanese technique. So there's lots of different forms of Reiki originating with the Japanese technique, which is Usui Reiki, U-S-U-I. And it basically, as I said, is universal energy, and it is a form and a technique of channeling energy, universal energy, through a conduit. So through a Reiki practitioner, a Reiki master, a Reiki teacher, somebody who's attuned to Reiki like me. Right. So the energy gets channeled through me as a conduit to the client. So with a Reiki healing session, it's not my energy that's being given. It's actually still the universal energy that's being tapped into, using me as a channel, as a conduit to send that Reiki, sends that energy, sends the intentions to the client for whatever intentions are set.
So you acted like a lightning rod for it?
Yes.
And then it goes into me or whoever you direct it to?
Yes.
Okay. And that sounds dangerous.
It's not. Yeah, I mean, I was about to say I know what I'm doing, but in a lot of ways, I don't know how it works, and I actually don't really want to know how it works. I just know that it does, and I trust that it does, and I feel it and have felt it for myself, and the feedback and the experiences that clients receive through it is remarkable. So I know it works. In fact, in one of my earliest sessions, which was on the phone, so not even physically with somebody in person, it was a distance Reiki healing session of somebody who I hadn't met. She was referred to me. So I spoke to her on the phone. We arranged our phone session. I've connected with her on WhatsApp, but she doesn't even have her own picture on WhatsApp. So I physically have never seen this woman's face. I've never spoken to her before. And after the session, I just sort of expected her to say, thank you very much and hang up the phone. But she stayed and she shared and she told me her experience. And the things that she was saying to me, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then I hung up the phone and I was like, it actually works. It was just amazing.
I suspect you need to be open to the experience. I mean, I suspect if you're closed off the experience, it must be quite hard. But
absolutely. Because if you're closed off, then you'll energetically block it. I mean, those who are, coming to me already have a curiosity and are already open-minded, open-hearted, ready to at least give it a go. I mean, like some people, they know it, they believe in it, they trust it, they've had it before. People who are trying it for the first time, have to at least have that kind of openness. And one thing that I always do and I always encourage is to come to the session with an intention, with a clear intention to use as a bit of a mantra. Because the thing about Reiki and any kind of energy healing, to my understanding, I'm only trained and practiced in Reiki, is that we all have self-healing capabilities. So Reiki and energetic healing in this way helps us with our innate self-healing abilities. So I always encourage a client to come to the session with an intention, because then they're already starting that self-healing process. The Reiki just intensifies what they're setting the intention for, and they're doing it themselves in a lot of ways.
So can you come to a session of Reiki feeling very low and very lost, and through a healing session come out feeling rejuvenated? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, and also the feelings and the shift of feelings and the shift of energy sometimes is fairly immediate. And sometimes it takes up to a week, 2 weeks, 28 days kind of thing. It totally depends on the person. It totally depends on the intention. It totally depends on, whether or not that, skepticism is going to come in at all to block any of it. It also will then depend on how hydrated the person is, and also what kind of practices that person does after. So for example, I would always recommend somebody drink lots of water beforehand and afterwards, so that they're, cleaner and purer in their body. And, it potentially helps the energy kind of move around the body.
Got you.
Whereas, certainly would not do Reiki with somebody who has had any alcohol, in the very recent past, ideally not even within 24 hours, if possible, or longer. And certainly not to have any alcohol or drugs or lots of sugar or anything like that straight after, because then it will block the energy there too. So some people will have really profound feeling of change and shift immediately. Some people it'll take a little bit longer. I often like to do Reiki sessions at night, and encourage somebody to go straight to sleep after that, because then they're allowing for the energies to kind of move around and soak in, if you will, while they're sleeping, because, the thought patterns are not there. And, it's just a nice way to kind of to go off into a lovely deep sleep. I had one of my monthly group Reiki healing sessions last night, and I always sleep so soundly after a group session.
So how did you come across it in the first place? It doesn't, I mean, were you actively looking for some sort of energetic healing, or did you come across it almost by chance?
Yes and no. So through networking, as you know, I do a lot of networking. I've been networking for a really long time, for my business. And through networking, I often came across somebody who mentioned it. And that person was either a Reiki practitioner or a Reiki master, or they were doing a workshop or a teacher course or something like that. And I'd often hear Reiki mentioned. And my ears always really perked up for it. I didn't know much about what it was. I hadn't even had a session before, but I just knew, I had an inner knowing that the first experience that I had of Reiki would be getting attuned on a level 1 and doing a workshop kind of thing. For some reason, I had made and not followed through with appointments. There was just something that didn't follow through, but there's something in me that knew that I would at some point do a Reiki 1 attunement. And at that stage, I thought it was just going to be completely a self-care practice. I wasn't going to tell anybody. At this stage, I wasn't anywhere near out of my spiritual closet. So I thought everybody would think that I was weird and crazy and woo-woo and all of that stuff.
I love that. I love the idea of a spiritual closet. That's delightful.
And you know what? People now can call me weird and crazy and woo-woo, but I like those terms now. So it's all okay.
Well, it's interesting, actually. I in the short time that I've been networking, which has only been 6 or 7 years, I've noticed that attitudes towards pseudosciences, let's call them that, has, because to quote Arthur C. Clarke, any sufficiently complex technology is indistinguishable from magic. So just because we consider it magic right now, just probably means we don't understand the technology behind it. And I think eventually everything is explainable. It just, we don't necessarily have the words or the ability to do so. But I do see a lot of, how should I put this? I see a lot of positive response to Reiki specifically. I mean, my wife is a Reiki practitioner, similar to Justine, although physically a lot further away. And I see people who see her coming in one state and leaving floating on a sort of a cloud. And I believe this is common occurrence, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it totally depends on the intention, and the timing of things just need to be right. I mean, just going back to your question of did I already know what I was always looking for it?
Right.
When I heard Reiki mentioned at these various different meetings at these different times, there was always some bit of resistance. Like either I chatted to the person and I didn't quite click with the vibe, or the timing wasn't right, or the location wasn't right. I didn't quite think the price was right. There was just something. And then there was one meeting I went to. I'd never been there before, didn't know anybody before, sat next to somebody. She was about to do a Reiki workshop. I looked in my phone, and it was the only day in the calendar that didn't have a little dot covering it. So it was the only day in the calendar I was actually free. The price was right. The location was right. I really clicked with her. And I was like, that's it. I'm in. So I booked that Reiki 1 attunement. And it really was that one experience. And actually, I went into it still totally skeptical, because I thought, okay, do you know what? It's 8 hours of meditation and self-care and a day out.
That can't be a bad thing anyway, can it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And for the price of it, I thought, like, if I was going to go to a spa for 8 hours, it would cost a lot more than that. So,
right.
At the end of the day, I will have at least had a lovely day out with some meditation and some food and some nice people to hang out with that day. But it really was so transformative. I mean, literally, my senses just opened. I saw things differently. I smelled things differently. I heard things differently. I just felt different. So in such a short period of time. And again, I was still only going to keep it for myself, that Reiki 1. Then a few months later, I was called to take the level 2 attunement. And that was only about a month or two before the pandemic. So when the pandemic started, so that was January 2020. So when the pandemic started, I thought, you know what? Actually, this is still a little bit of a secret. There's still very few people who know that I've done the Reiki 1 and 2 attunements. But this is actually a perfect opportunity for me to do all of my self-care, my self-practices, my self-healing, and just really let that kind of sink in and like become a bit stronger in the technique, and starting to trust my own intuition a lot. Because I think with something like energy healing, because it's invisible, there is a huge element to trust.
Yes,
there.
Huge element of trust. Huge element of trust.
Yeah.
They're not just trusting that you're doing what you say you're doing, but they're also trusting that it will have an effect on them, and that it will then somehow, because on the face of it, if we can be blunt about it, on the face of it, you're standing there, nothing appears to be going on, and yet apparently things are energetically changing.
Yeah.
And when I heard other people having been to Heather and said the same thing, just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it can't be having a positive response.
Yeah.
And so that
I have no idea how this is working right now. I have no idea how I can see you in another place.
Well, yes, this is when if you were to present this to someone 30 years ago and said this is what's going to happen, and we explained what's going on within this StreamYard, they'd think we were nuts anyway. So this is just another thing that nobody can really explain at the moment. Having said that, if it's having a positive effect, It's non-invasive. It the whole purpose is to improve rather than regress. I think it can only be a positive thing. Now, I actually want to move to a different topic.
Okay.
Apparently, you have a retreat coming up.
I do have a retreat coming up,
Within
and actually,
within which
there is
will be
Reiki.
Thank you.
This
Thank
is
you.
true.
You put yourself in the hands of an expert here. So, what I want you to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to change the banner at the bottom to talk about the retreat. There we go.
Yes.
Seamless.
Yes.
Nobody
So yeah, there's several opportunities within the retreat. So on I think it's the first night, the Friday night when everybody arrives, before bed, we're going to be doing a group meditation and Reiki healing session. So something that Juliet and Rachel don't talk about as much actually is that the three of us did an angelic Reiki course together. So the two of them are also attuned to Reiki, angelic Reiki level 1 and 2. And Juliet had been attuned to Usai Reiki, many, many years ago. So although that group session is going to be, I'm putting air quotes here, run by me, but actually because Juliet and Rachel are also attuned to Reiki, whether they try or not, they will also be intensifying the energy and the Reiki healing
so
in
there's
that
going to be a
group.
whole lot of energy going on.
Oh, it's going to be really, really magical, really magical. So that's on the Friday. That's included in the agenda of the retreat. And then on Saturday, I think we've got 3 hours in the afternoon where people can either have totally free time, do whatever they want, go for other walks, read, go, do whatever they want. Or there's the opportunity to book additional treatments with myself. So I'll be doing the one-to-one Reiki sessions, 30 minutes, just for a small additional cost. And Juliet will be offering massage and reflexology, again, 30 minutes at a small additional cost.
It does sound rather lovely.
It really is going to be amazing.
So tell everybody briefly where it is, because I've seen a whole flutter of people have been popping on and off throughout this session.
Oh, how exciting.
Well, this is great. Tell everybody where this is and how they can get involved.
The retreat is in West Wittering from the 10th to the 12th of May. So Friday afternoon to Sunday afternoon in May. We've got beach walks, nature walks, as I said, the Reiki, cacao ceremony, all sorts of transformational workshops. Really, really great stuff. I do have a little but here, and that is booking has to close this weekend. So we do have to get all sales in.
Hang on. And there are limited spaces available. How many have we got left?
There are limited spaces available. There are 8 spaces left.
Right.
And we can continue to book after this weekend as long as 5 more book in. So there is a bit of an urgency here. Booking does need to close this weekend.
Mobilize. If you're interested in this, get hold of Justine or myself. You can find Justine Blanchard on LinkedIn very easily.
The details are
just there. It says
there.
There it is. That's right. And I'll put this link also out there on the post, so you can actually click on it. But can you see it's https://bit.ly/awaken abundance retreat. So that's what it's going to be.
I can even make things easier by making it a live link.
Wow.
Underneath this video as soon as it gets fully published.
Whoa. There we go. That's fabulous. And look, as ever, Justine, for me, a lot of this whole sessions that we have with each other is a bit of a journey of knowledge for me as well. I'd like next week to talk a little bit more about one of the other facilities that you bring to the table during your process, because there's a number of different modalities that you have. But until then, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you found it enjoyable. I certainly did.
Always.
Yeah. And guys, look, as I said, I'm not going to bang on it about much more, but this retreat does sound like an opportunity to be around 3 people, all of which have been attuned to Reiki level 2 at the very least. And it means that there's going to be a bunch of positive stuff floating around you, whether you like it or not. And you can also get those extra sessions with Justine at the time. Justine, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. But until then, I wish everyone a wonderful week and, of course, great mental health. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Gareth.